The Alarbus sequence was really one of the more difficult ones, in the sense that the movement of the limbs, it was difficult to steady them. It was always challenging to keep them straight, and to not have it be too long, and to not have it be too jarring because it was the first of these nightmare sequences, and not have it feel like it's inconsistent with the rest of the film. Julie wanted to have there be a fireball that came towards frame that had limbs rolling inside of it, and she wanted the limbs to appear as if they were marble. She had shot limbs against a blue screen that were provided to Imaginary Forces and myself. The material that they were made out of wasn't marble, so we tried a lot of tests to try to make them look like they were marble, but the fire looked better if the whole tone of the scene was more orange and red. She shot Tamara and Anthony Hopkins against a blue screen zooming towards camera. And we tried to, without shooting any live action elements, we were kind of limited by what we could shoot, and we just tried to composite all of these elements together. So Mutius, Julie had this idea of all the angels coming up from the sacrificial lamb that he killed that Titus killed his son Mutius. One of the harder things there, which I guess adds to the raw nature of these things. I mean, I think she wanted them to be layered, but putting the head on Mutius, even though they had shot him, against a blue screen with his head stationary, putting it on the sheep always looked strange. And so trying to get that to not look too silly, it looked a little like a Terry Gilliam kind of thing. But I like the writing that comes up. It doesn't really mean anything. It's just this fake sort of, Cyrillic alphabet, but we liked adding that graphic element. And she had footage of the angels flying against blue screen, but we had to put them against red. And, we move into Anthony Hopkins' eye, and that's a huge blow up on that one frame. So really, all of what we did was listening to Julie's ideas and taking all of her elements, but not really knowing exactly how the elements, what the end result would be, but trying to combine all those elements and create layers digitally. Lavinia is the most fast-cutty kind of music video-y sequence. It's not as languid as Mutius or even Rape, Revenge, and Murder, but that's the way Julie always wanted it. It was like when they were playing pinball, and when the boys are in that scene where they're in there running around, she really wanted it to be aggressive in that sense. And she had images from the play where Lavinia had a doe's head on and had her arms replaced with hoofs. So it was always supposed to be her writing in the sand, and the idea was that we would integrate the footage that was shot of Lavinia drawing her stick lines. We ended up wanting to do this thing that wasn't so much sand being kicked up, but the scratches actually were physically becoming the silhouettes of the tree branches. We talked about, the boys turning into tigers or morphing kinds of things. But I actually Lavinia might be a little bit fast-cutty, but what I like about it is that we suggested that they were tigers without necessarily, just relying on double exposures and intercutting rather than physically, in a 3D situation, transforming them. And she always wanted it to be handmade, so that was good. The same thing with Mutius and Rape, Revenge, and Murder. They're like these old cameo photography books. They're in the windows, and they have the type down the bottom, which really doesn't mean anything. We were writing like rapum and things like that in faux Latin, but it's more decorative, I think, or more textural, some of these elements. And she shot them sitting on the tree stump, and that was against a blue screen. And in the play, there's a Ferris wheel, and so we made 3D Ferris wheels that turned in the background. And I think the things that we brought to it were the parts with Anthony Hopkins, where he kind of shifts off of himself. I've seen that technique before, but I thought that we did it okay, where we repeated his face and he turned. We added some smoke. And as was the case with all of these things, we did our edit, and then Francoise and Julie would come and talk about what we edited. We scanned in textures, and we created animation, we created graphics, we made layers, but we didn't shoot any live action for any of it. We used a stock fireball that I shot for something else for Alarbus. But it was nice to get Tamara with butcher knives in her crown. How are you going to go wrong with something like that?
I am revenge, sent from the infernal kingdom.